Welcome to the Debt Free Guys First Money Master Blab, featuring Chris Peach of Money Peach. I'm John Schneider, and this is David Otten. And we're kind of revamping our Money Master series. We used to do a weekly blog interview. We decided to take that to the next level and do a monthly blog interview and capture our discussions with Money Masters on Blab as well. So we can spread the message of each personal finance blogger and get their information out there to our followers. So with that, Chris, do you want to give us an intro about yourself, please?
Sure. Real quick. My name's Chris Peach. My friends call me Peach, so you guys, either one's fine with me. But I'm the guy behind Money Peach. So if you've ever been to the Money Peach blog or read any of the stuff on the website, it's all me. I'm a solo one-man show. So I've been doing this for a while now. And then I also do like financial coaching on the side. So,
cool.
So that's how you guys found me. I think we found each other on Twitter, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know where we met.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of who you meet and where, but it's
Sure.
cool. This whole social media, personal finance space is a lot of fun.
I think we'll give a shout out. I think it was actually Millennial Money Man who introduced us. I think that you were following him, and he kind of tagged you on one of our tweet conversations, and that's how we kind of got together. So
very cool. Right on. Good memory.
Yeah, David's memory is a lot better than mine.
Yeah.
So you want to go get started?
Yeah. So if the watchers, individuals who are watching the Blab here, if you know anything about Chris or Peach, or have read the interview on our Money Master series, Peach is a firefighter. So one of our first questions for you, Chris, is kind of tying those two together: your love of personal finance or your love of money, and although that didn't come out right, but anyway, the love of helping individuals with money. So tell us a little bit about, do you find similarities between firefighting and helping individuals with their money?
You know, to be honest with you, fighting fire and money, I don't really see any similarities there. But beyond fighting fire, is firefighters, what we do is we help people. I mean, we're problem solvers. People, when they call 911, it's because they're out of options. They're completely lost, out of options. So they need somebody to figure it out for them. And that's kind of where being a firefighter comes in, whether it's fighting a fire. I'm also a paramedic, so it could be anything, whether it's kind of medical call, roll over on the freeway, fire, anything. So becoming a problem solver just naturally came to me, especially now being about 9 years into the fire service. You are there to solve a problem. And sometimes the training you received isn't directly associated with the problem they have, and you still have to figure it out because there's nobody else after you. So taking that into personal finance, it's kind of the same type of thing. I'll sit down with somebody and we'll start going over their budget, and they're $2,800 a month upside down. And you're thinking, right, how is this even possible? And they hired me as a solution maker, right? So It's kind of the same type of thing, is you have to figure out a solution. There's really no other option, because after me, there is nobody. That's the kind of mentality that I have on the fire service. And then it's also the mentality I have as a coach, is saying, after me, you need to leave here satisfied. You need to leave here with a plan, with your problem being solved. So I think that's what naturally comes to me with personal finances. There is a way out. There is a better way, especially when you're stuck, especially when, you're paycheck to paycheck, you're in debt up to your eyeballs. I was talking last week to a single mom, and she's paycheck to paycheck. She's in an incredible amount of debt. She can't work extra jobs because she can't find a place for her kids. And what is she going to do? And she's out of options. And sometimes when you're just so stressed out, whether it's you're calling 911 because you have no other options, or you're just so stressed out with money, it's nice for someone to come in who understands that, look, this is not an emergency for me. This is an emergency for you. So I have a different look at it, and I'm able to kind of maybe come up with a solution that you maybe not have seen. So I say that's how it goes hand in hand.
Right. It's interesting that you say that it's not necessarily an emergency for you, but or for you as an individual, but somebody else views it as an emergency. It kind of made me think about how sometimes people call 911 because they got the too hot of coffee at McDonald's or something like that. So sometimes taking a very subjective look at someone else's finances allows us to find the little secrets or tools that we have in our tool belt that will help them get out of debt or help them get back into the right financial situation.
You're exactly right. I mean, if someone were to ask you for help and you're freaking out about it, you're really not a big help to them, right? So you have to approach it like, look, this is an emergency, whether it's personal finance or any type of thing, and you're here to help. But it's not an emergency to me. It's your emergency. I'm just going to help you figure it out. And this could be, you can illustrate this in any aspect of life, whether it's personal finance or a fitness coach, somebody that comes in 200 pounds overweight. This is bad for you. you're not doing well physically or you're not healthy. I'm healthy, but I'm here to help you, right? That's kind of the same type of thing. Is I was once, and that's another thing too, is I've been in people's shoes that are in bad shape financially because we were once in bad shape. So having that stance too is it's kind of, I'm going to help you with your problem, not only because that's what I do is I solve problems, but I've also been in your shoes. So I kind of can take a stance in your shoes and understand exactly how you're feeling as well.
Right. That allows you to be more personable. Do you find that when you are coaching somebody for the first time, that first step is typically acting as therapist, trying to, calm them down and have them realize that this is winnable. They can fix things. It's not as dire as it might seem.
Sure. I mean,
right
I think
now.
there's definitely a balance, because if somebody comes in and they're in bad, so somebody comes in and they're $2,800 upside down, and that's not a made up number. That's a number that we actually had about a few weeks ago. And, if you tell them, oh, it's no big deal, it is a big deal. So you have to play a balance. You don't want to scare them into thinking, okay, my life is over, I'm going to have to declare bankruptcy. But you also don't want to say, hey, just push this button, everything's going to be solved, right? I mean, you have to kind of, I would say, let them know that this is serious enough where if you don't make changes immediately, you're going to go down a path that's going to eventually be unavoidable down just, a disaster streak. So there's definitely a balance there. But that's also how, that's one thing is we're taught in the fire service is you have to be honest. And sometimes it's tough to be honest. If we're dealing with somebody who is dying and they look at you and they ask you, am I going to die? We are trained that you don't give false hope. That's something that you learn in the medical field. Sometimes you say, we're going to do our best, but right now things are not looking very well. And that's kind of how you have to look at personal finance as well.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So getting back to that idea of personal finance and helping individuals, when you think back to your situation, do you remember or still have one piece of financial advice that you received that you think is probably the best thing you've ever received and that you like to pass on? And
Sure.
Maybe where did you get that from?
I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. I think a lot of people that are in the personal finance industry, he's kind of like the mecca, right, of personal finance. But one of the things I remember that caught my ear when I was listening to him was he said, the biggest raise that you'll ever get is the day you get on a budget. And I was thinking, like, what is he talking about? I'm over here, I'm trying to do side hustles and do all these different things to try to earn extra income. And he's telling me over here, all I have to do is get on a budget and it's going to be the biggest raise that I'd ever receive. And man, that couldn't be more true. I tell people that all the time. The number one thing that I start with people is getting on a budget, because I just translated this. Say you're running a business, or say anybody's running a business. If they're not watching the money coming in and out and tracking the spending and tracking the expenses, there's going to be an out of business sign very, very soon. Why is that different with our own money, right? So when we got on a budget, that was the biggest thing I noticed right away is, wow, we have money. Like, we actually have money. This is crazy. Right. So the biggest raise that we've ever got in our life was getting on a budget. And I remember hearing that about 4 or 5 years ago, thinking, that kind of sounds goofy, but man, it is so incredibly true.
Yeah. And don't you find that when you have a budget, it kind of takes a lot of the guessing out of it and the options out. And so it's just a little bit more simple way to manage your money. Do we either have the money for this particular category or we don't? There's not a whole lot of vagueness and guessing.
Yeah, it's black and white. I mean, people like steps and people like black and white. Like, people get a little worried about gray areas, like, a little bit. But if you could tell them, either you have money or you don't have money by staying on a budget or getting off a budget, it's very black and white. And I translated to this. Would you ever go on a road trip without a gas gauge?
Yeah,
right. No,
absolutely not. And you're on a road trip.
You know exactly what you have.
Right.
And money touches every aspect of your life, whether you like it or not. I mean, whether you're spending it, saving it, giving it, investing it, whatever you're doing, money is somewhere attached to your life, right? So if money is everywhere in our life and we're not doing the biggest thing for our money, which is budgeting it, then we're driving down this road on this road trip without a gas gauge, just going, hopefully we make it, And with the car situation, it's not a huge deal if you run out of gas, right? If you run out of money, it is a huge deal. Yeah.
Well, our battery just died last week, and that kind of sucked. You're stuck on the highway.
Right. I need new money. I need more money. It's, you didn't watch it. It's gone.
Right.
So when you explain that budget scenario to people, how do they respond to that when
well, that's another thing is when you're explaining a budget to somebody, the first time you hear the word budget, for a lot of people, that's like a cuss word, right? I mean, that's like, people cringe. People think like, I don't want to be a dog on a leash type thing, but the biggest thing is I'm not creating the budget and you're following it. I'm helping you so you can create your own budget, so create your own budget and then follow the budget, right? So a lot of people think if I'm doing a budget, my wife is putting me on a leash and walking me or vice versa. And that's not the case at all. I always tell people, make sure you're doing it together. That there's two of you. It's huge. Right, sure. But then also you create the budget. It's your budget. It's your money. You went out and earned it. You should be able to figure out how you want to spend it. Just make sure the money going out equals the money coming in. It's fifth grade math, right? It's not very complicated.
Right. Well, and I think we always look at a budget as not something that tells us what we can't do, but it tells us what we can do. Our goals in life are traveling and retirement. So we want to make sure that that's where a majority of our income goes. So we need to budget everything else accordingly. So if we want to be able to travel to, Greece or Europe or whatever, next year, then we need to plan accordingly. And so that budget tells us when we can go to Greece or Europe.
And you know what? I haven't heard that in a while. That is a great way to put it. A budget is not telling you what you can't do. It's telling what you can do. That's another thing is people think, well, as soon as I go on a budget, there goes my life. No, here comes your life. That's right. Like you're going to be able to do stuff. Exactly. You're going to actually have money to do stuff. When you go to Greece, you're going to come back and Greece is going to stay in Greece and you're going to be able to come back and not have to bring the trip home with you.
Stressed out. Yeah, exactly. And whatever your goal is, if your goal is golfing, you need a new set of golf clubs, you plan for that accordingly. If your goal is going to all the football games, buy those tickets and you have to plan for that accordingly based on whatever.
Sure. And just a little plug, ASU football is playing in a little while, so.
We better wrap this up then, huh?
Going your prayers on the state, so.
I'm a Buff fan, so we'll eventually clash. Yeah, you guys will whoop us, but anyway.
That'll be an ugly game.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to switch to something we call the Final Five, which I'm stealing from our friends at Experian. So first, the first question here, or I guess I should say the final question here is, what advice would you give yourself if you were in your shoes from 3 years ago? Kind of take a step back to where you were at 3 years ago. What advice would you give? And maybe at that point you were already out of debt, but it's kind of this, we like this idea of kind of what kind of progress have I made in the last 3 years, or what kind of progress would I like to make in the next 3 years?
3 years ago, I think we were just finishing up paying off all our debt. So we were at the very end of it. And, but one of the things when you're going through paying off debt, it's so step by step. And I'm a nerd. I do spreadsheets and stuff like that. I had it printed off like, okay, we're going to add this many cents to this dollar, and on and on and on. And I was so focused on just task level stuff, just very, very task level. Like I can't wait to pay the next debt. And I wasn't looking past my nose, So now looking back 3 years ago, there were some things I could have done a little bit differently as far as, putting away some money in investments, starting a health savings account earlier, because I wasn't looking very long-term because I was so focused on the short term. So if I can go back and talk to myself 3 years ago, I was in a good position. We were paying off our debt. I think actually we just paid off our debt and we were going to the next step. But I would say, look at the big picture too, because if you get so task oriented, you get in these short-term goals. Short-term goals are good, but make sure you have a long-term goal as well. And then that ties into goal setting. I got big into goal setting within probably the last 2 years, and goal setting is huge. And make your goals so big that they're hard to reach. And you talk to a lot of successful people, they're going to tell you, yeah, my goal was way up here and I didn't reach it. And they're not disappointed about it, because for the longest time I was thinking, oh, my goal had to always be attainable, because if I didn't achieve my goal, I'd be disappointed. And that's not true at all. The higher you set your goals, the better. Almost to the point where it almost sounds impossible, because then so say you set your goal incredibly high and you don't make it, you're still going to be higher off than setting an attainable goal. So.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
Oh, I like that. That's pretty cool. So when you finally paid off your debt, how liberating was that?
So a funny story. So our last debt was owed to a big Bank of America. I don't think they're a bad bank or anything, but we owed them. So we walked, there's a Bank of America branch near our home. So I told my wife, I said, you know what, I want to go in and physically pay this off. It was just this liberating thing. So we drove down to the bank and we wrote a check. We handed it over and we said, please close out this account. And that was I remember when we handed that check over, I was like, holy cow, we're done. We did it. Just happened. And it was funny right afterwards, the teller, I totally understand. This is their job and they have to, but she was like, would you like to open a line of credit? I was like, wow. You have no idea.
No.
Yeah, they get paid commission, right? So. All right. That's cool. That's a good answer. I like that.
Yeah. So you want to start the Final Five?
Yeah, you do it.
All right. So like I said, the Final Five is just, these are quick fire questions we'd like you to answer. Helps the individuals who are listening get to know you a little bit better. We talked about football earlier, and we know you're a fantasy football fan. So who's your QB?
I'm sorry, say it again. Peyton Manning.
Who's your QB
I
for
could
the
have had
fantasy
Tom Brady,
football?
and who's on the Peyton Manning. We'll see.
Broncos, go Broncos. All right. What is the most amount of debt that you've ever had, not including your mortgage?
Ooh, let's go with 75,000.
Wow, that's a lot.
Ouch.
Yeah. And when did we know you're married? So when did you and your wife get married?
We got married in 2008. 2008.
She's gotta remember that. She's gonna watch this, huh? All right. And who's your favorite musician or band?
This is gonna sound weird, but I'm a big fan of Weezer. I used to listen to Weezer way long ago, and it seems like every time I listen to them again, it's like it takes me back, like hanging out with my buddies. So yeah, Weezer.
Yep. Destroy that sweater, huh? All right. And then last question here: if you could live anywhere, where would you like to live?
The Caribbean. I would live St. Lucia.
Nice.
Yes.
And you've been there? Very nice. We have never been to the Caribbean. So we want to thank you for being our inaugural guest here for our Money Master series. We're going to go ahead and post this on our website for those who are watching. We appreciate it. And if you haven't checked out themoneypeach.com, please go check that out.
Come on, guys.
Thanks again.
Come on.
I'm sorry, moneypeach.com. So thanks again. We appreciate your time.